Welcome, fellow Questers, to Metaverse Adventures. My name is Immersive Matthew. Today is June 29th, and this is your Oculus Quest Week in Review. And this week, we're going to start things off, as always, by getting into the Quest hype cycle. Got some cool data to show you there. We're then going to jump over and talk about new games that came out in the Oculus Quest store this week. And there's some pretty cool titles in there you're going to want to check out. We're going to talk about some experiences that are now available on the Quest. We're then going to jump over and talk about Sideload, and there's a whole pile of Sideload content this week to go over, and also some pretty cool stuff there you might want to check out. We're going to talk about upcoming games that were announced. They're coming out at some point in the next year or so. We're going to talk about the community, and there's some interesting things that have been going on in the community this week that I want to share. And then finally, for those of you interested in the business side of things, I have another app for you this week that I want to share with you on that front. So grab yourself a popcorn or a snack or a drink, sit down, relax, and here we go. Alright, let's begin our week like we always do by going over to Google Trends and having a look at the Oculus Quest hype cycle. Now, as you know, I've been tracking for the past 2 months the Oculus Quest, the Rift S, and the Valve Index. And last week, we added in PlayStation VR as another point of reference. Well, as you can see in the data, it's continuing to maintain this sort of same level that we've seen now since launch. On May 21st, we saw that all-time high, and it went down as sort of not as low as it was before, but it has been kind of petering kind of evenly across, so it's not going up or down, it's sort of staying as it is. Well, I'm also adding in Nintendo Switch. Now, some of you had asked for this on the comments. User DTZ1000 suggested that maybe we do that, and I think it's a wonderful suggestion, and in fact it's something that I've been wanting to do for some time. It just didn't feel like the time was right, but since you're all asking for it, let's put it up and have a look at that data. And as you can see, the Nintendo Switch is quite a bit higher than all the VR gear, and that makes sense. It's a much larger market, it has a lot more appeal, and it's much more well known. I mean, Nintendo is a brand name, it's a household item, whereas Oculus, I don't know, it doesn't seem to be that well known yet. A lot of people have no idea what I'm talking about until I strap them in the Oculus Quest, and now they're interested to learn more. So I think we got a ways to go. The data is telling us that we've got a ways to go. We're still not there yet. What's interesting though is that back on May 21st, when the Quest had its all-time high, it got a 26 score on Google Trends, and at that same time, the Switch got a 51, so, you know, just about half. Now, of course, the Switch has had higher highs than that, in fact, all the way up to 100 versus the 26 for the all-time high for the Quest. However, and that's just during the same time period, you know, since April 29th. But however, it's just interesting to see that really it's kind of at worst a quarter of the Switch's popularity and at best half. So that's interesting, and I think that's a positive trend. I'm really curious to see what happens between now and Christmas. My suspicion is going to be more or less the same as we're seeing here in the chart. It's going to sort of kind of peter at the same level. And as Christmas comes along, I do think that we're going to see it rise up again. And that's the same with the Switch too. It also rises up every Christmas. All the game consoles in the data rise up around Christmas time. So sort of Black Friday onwards. So let's see if that happens this year with the Quest as well. Continuing on with our hype cycle, let's go over and look at Amazon's top 100 video games. Now, as you know, the Quest has been in the top 100 since basically it was announced on May 1st. And so that's pretty exciting, and it hasn't really dropped off, except as you know, the 128GB model, mostly due to availability, did fall out the list several weeks ago. The 64GB model this week sits in at 65, so it's sort of been sitting there in the 60s, 70s now for the past 3 or 4 weeks, and it has a shipping date of 2 or 3 weeks. If you head over to Oculus.com, they're shipping the 64GB by July 17th. The 128GB model, like I said, is not even on the list again this week. That's the 3rd or 4th week in a row now, but it's not even shipping for apparently also another 3 to 4 weeks. Now that's interesting because it has been 2 to 3 months for shipping for the last maybe month now. But all of a sudden, apparently, according to their website, they'll have stock again on July 11th, and they plan to start shipping around that time. So maybe the Amazon issues with stock are going to finally go away. Maybe Oculus has ramped up production, which I suspect that they have. If you go over to Oculus.com, the 120GB model is shipping on July 12th. Now, I want to point out that there's been some chatter in the comments about shipping. If you look in the comments below from last week, Mr. Dashin, one of our subscribers here on the channel, he said that he ordered his originally from Amazon on June 7th, and the delivery isn't even scheduled until July 2nd. So that's a full 3.5 weeks, not even the 2 to 3 weeks that was originally promised. So that's a little slower than expected. And also subscriber Mike Latoris, he ordered his on June 10th from Amazon, and he just got an update just recently saying he wouldn't get it until July 12th. So that's a bit of a head scratcher, because if you order it right now, apparently it's going to be shipping in 2 to 3 weeks. So I'm a little confused of what's going on over at Amazon. That's around the same time frame. So hopefully Mike and Mr. Dashin get their Quest suited in that. Hopefully Amazon has got their stock problems behind them. Hopefully, Oculus is out there pumping out more of these units, and we'll see them both fall back into the top 100. Let's see where it goes, because I think our stock problems may be behind us in the coming weeks. All right, let's head over to games available right now in the Oculus Quest store. And we'll start off at the very top by talking to one that looks really mind-bending. It's called Fujii. And this is a game developed by Photonic Labs, and it's a serene, mystical journey that traverses a series of otherworldly, organic landscapes. It's kind of a gardening game with music, and it's got just different aspects of a sort of a refreshing, enveloping experience. I can't even explain. I have not tried this yet, but every video I see of this game makes me really curious and intrigued. In fact, it's one that I put on my partner's radar today because she loves everything Japanese. And this game is actually developed by a Japanese studio. And they said in their blog this week, link below if you want to go read it yourself, that some of their inspiration came from some of Japanese cultures from studios like Ghibli. And for you, all you fans out there, Ghibli's got some great animation and great style. And apparently, this is where some of their inspiration is coming from. So this is one that if you're into Japanese artistry, if you're into anime, if you're into sort of Japanese culture, this could be something that's interesting. Now, when I watch the videos, it reminds me of my trip to Japan. I went to a couple of cool museums there, and the vibe and the music and the sounds. So I'm pretty sure this is one that if my partner gets and she loves, I'll probably get it from my Quest too, and we'll both have it in our household. And the early reviews for this game are very positive. Like just came out just this week, I think it was Thursday. However, it's already getting a 4.6 out of 5 on the Oculus Store, and people are saying a lot of good things about this. It's a hard game to really understand until you try it. So if this game looks at all appealing to you, maybe it's worth the plunge. Another game that's now in the Oculus Store this week is one called Sairento VR Untethered. You may have heard me speak about this game before. It comes from developer Mixed Realms, and they tout it as a cyber ninja game where you really are able to perform quadruple jumps, you get to run up walls, you get to power slide, backflips, and you even get to manipulate time. And so this game has a lot of promise. If you go over to subreddit or you go over to the Oculus forums, a lot of people are talking very positively about this game. This seems to have a raging fan base, and it sounds like the port over to the Quest has gone quite well. And there were some doubters, including myself, if this game would make it to the Quest in really good state. But it looks great, it's playing great, and the scores on Oculus.com are saying the same. It's getting a 4.6 out of 5. So if you're into this sort of style of gameplay, this could be something to check out. And this week, OrbusVR announced in their official blog that they're releasing some new content into their game. It's called Guild City Raid. Now, if you own the game, you get it automatically, and by the time this video is out, it will already be in the game. And what it is 5 unique bosses, each with new mechanics and challenges for you to overcome. And the idea is you get 10 of your friends, and they gotta be fairly experienced players of a decent level. So if you're a newbie, you gotta level up first. But you get 10 of your friends, and you go on these raids and these quests, and you're able to get some pretty awesome items, including things like a raid boss pet that drops off the 4th boss. You get maybe some new raid armor and weapons, as well as some unique dyes so you can customize your character and make it look different than everybody else. So if you're into OrbusVR, this is definitely one for you. And if you're not into OrbusVR, it's a massively online multiplayer game, sort of like World of Warcraft. And it is something that's getting a lot of buzz. Some people love it. Some people find it a little bit difficult to use and a little bit hard. But those who are into it really say the community is amazing. Walking around, talking to people and being in environments with them, going on raids together. Apparently it really is a step above their normal flat screen RPGs. So this is one, if you're into those type of games, this would be one for you to check out. It gets a 4.1 in the Oculus Store, so decent review. And for one, I quite like it, and I think it has a lot of potential, although it is a little rough around the edges still. So let's hope they get enough people playing it so they can keep on developing that and make it better and better for us. And the last game I want to talk about this week that's available right now in the store is Richie's Plank Experience. Now, this is a game that's been around for quite some time, and something I've tried now on the Oculus Rift and even on my Vive in the past, and every time I play it, I tell you, it stirs some deep emotions. I'm not even a person who's afraid of heights, but this one just gets me, especially if you get a plank. And you can see here that user, I don't know what you don't do, has a picture here from Reddit where they got a plank. And you don't have to use something that long. You can use a shorter plank. I used a log once. Any sort of narrow and you kind of feel your feet that's not infinite. Really makes you feel that you're on that plank. It's surprising how much immersion it can bring in. And so if you want to go and give a great demo for people, VR, this is a really good one because it's easy to get into and it just generates a lot of emotion and a lot of fun. You'll get people pretty hyped up when you bring this one out, especially like you said, if you have the plank. It gets a 4.5 out of 5 already on Oculus.com, so people are reviewing it very well. Like I reviewed last week, it has a few extra mini games built into it as well. Look like a lot of fun, so that's worth checking out. And now, a word of caution, user Retroheads twisted their ankle on a board that he put out, and unfortunately he fell when he did that and bumped his head on the corner of a wall. And as you can see here, he got 9 staples in his skull. So yeah, a word of warning, in VR, you really do have to be super, super careful. It happens. We only have one experience this week to cover off for those of you who aren't gamers, and it's an interesting one. It's called Anne Frank House VR. It's a VR story. It lasts about 30 minutes long, and it's really about giving you some insights into her life in the time of the Nazi occupation. And apparently it has quite a lot of empathy. In fact, Gamertag VR has a video on it. You can go ahead and look at it below to give you a bit of an idea of what to expect from that experience. But it's getting a really strong buzz. On the Oculus Quest store, it gets a 4.7 out of 5, which is very high and gets something worth looking at. Apparently it triggers a lot of empathy, and apparently also it kind of has some echoes around what's maybe going on today in the world. So this is maybe one for you to go check out. A lot of people are encouraging that it's free. So if you want to kind of educate yourself about Anne Frank's life and have it done in an immersive, meaningful, emotional way, this is definitely one for you to check out. And maybe it's great to take a pause sometimes for all your gaming and go get a bit of history at the same time. And I actually find that things like this in VR can be very impactful when they're well done. So when I see a score like that, it's definitely on my list of things to try. All right, on our side load this week, we've got quite a bit to cover. The first we want to talk about is SideQuest. They have a brand new update that's come out. Developer Shakumon says that a new SideQuest is available with a lot of great updates. So for those of you who don't know what SideQuest is, it is the graphical user interface way of getting games that aren't in the Oculus Quest store, the ones that aren't officially there, but are available on the internet. You can then download them and put them on your Quest through a kind of a backdoor process called Sideloading. And normally that requires you to do command line typing. But SideQuest takes all the command line and all the hard bits away and it puts it in a nice graphical interface where literally you hit a button and it's loaded to your Quest. So it's that easy. It's almost like buying from the Oculus store. And so they've got a new redesign and now have a dark mode for those of you who don't like the bright white screens. They have an app management system that also backs up your apps, so that's kind of nice. They have better support for downloading via the in-browser. And it now also works with BeatSaber.com and BeatSaber.com. And it allows you to intercept the APK files as you download them, and then it offers you to install them right away. So even less steps. So if you're not technically inclined, but you're kind of interested in sideloading some of the apps I'm about to talk about, SideQuest is the way to go. Links below and how you get there. And one of the more exciting SideQuest games that I want to announce is called Crisis VRigade. This looks really cool, and the people who've tried it out are raving about it over on Reddit today. It's made by Suma Lab, and it's an arcade-style cover shooter, as you can see here. Sort of reminiscent of like Time Crisis back in the arcades, if you know what that is. It's beta right now, and it's free. So get in that SideQuest and get this game, because it looks awesome, as you can see here in the video. And the reason why they're doing this, they said, and this is the developer's words, They said, we are doing this. Why? Because the game works so good in the Oculus Quest, we just have to share it with the world. And they're really looking for your feedback. They're asking you to go on to Reddit or email them, links are below, and let them know what you thought of the game, what was good, what was bad, what could be improved, because their ultimate goal is to get this game in the Oculus store. And as you probably know from a few weeks back, Oculus has a pretty high bar that you have to cross to get your game in. So the more of you give feedback, the better the polish that game can get, the better chance a game like this will be officially in the Oculus store. And all of you who are watching this, you're sort of the enthusiasts for the Oculus Quest. So it's really this community and those on Reddit who really the ones who are championing these new SideQuest games so that the masses, because there's a lot more Quest users that come on this show and a lot more Quest users that even turn up on Reddit. Reddit only has like 15,000. What does Reddit have? Reddit. What do we have? I think we're at 15. 22. Because Reddit's only got 22,000 and I've only got something like 1,800 subscribers. So we're a very small community right now compared to the potentially hundreds of thousands of Quest players. So it's folks like you getting in, getting these apps, trying them out in SideQuest, giving your feedback, making noise on Reddit about how great it is that helps those developers get more games in. And it's kind of this effect that happens. The more games that get in, the more developers are attracted, the more people who buy the Quest because they see games they're interested in, and this whole community will blow up. And you will be a part of that blowing up. When I show you week to week the Oculus Quest hype cycle, and you start to see it go up, you can say that you were a part of that experience. And another really cool sideload app that I want to put on your radar this week is one called Real VR Fishing. Now, this one has a really great video over on OpenPC Reviews where he takes his son, and it's such a cute video, you gotta go watch it. Again, links always below for everything I talk about. And if you're into fishing, like the bait game, and I'm not really a big fisher, but I tried bait and I really, really loved it. I loved how relaxing it was. And bait's a little more of a cartoony experience, whereas Real VR Fishing is a lot more realistic, much better graphics, more photorealistic, I would say. And you can see even the video where he's holding up a fish and he's just blown away with the detail in the fish. Like they put a lot of love into this game. It was originally developed for the Go, and actually it's still only available for the Go. So a lot of people are already asking the developer to please bring it over to the Quest. But if you want to try it now, you can get it on the Go. You can then SideQuest load it onto the Quest. All the instructions are linked below. Just look for Real VR Fishing. And you can try this out yourself tonight if you're into fishing. And this one seems like a great one to get your hands on. Wow, I guess this video is a little longer than I expected. We're only about halfway through. We're at 18 minutes right now. And I cut this one here. We're going to call it part 1. Part 2, look for it early next week while you're all on your vacation time. Hope you enjoyed this video.